Good evening and welcome to the Maple Plain City Council special meeting. It is Thursday, June 29th at 5:33, and I call the meeting to order. With that, I'm looking for a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Francis.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Fay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the agenda as is, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. New business this evening, we'll start with the park facility reservation request that is before you in your packet. We are looking for a motion to approve the facility reservation request from Madison Michael for Sunday, July 23rd.
I prepared to make that motion. I just want to clarify with Councilmember DeLuca that his questions were answered as far as the application and what transpired last Monday night as far as crossing T's and dotting I's, talking to legal, getting the ordinance in front of us, et cetera, et cetera.
My understanding from the answers that I got from staff were there is a policy that we have that there's no alcohol in a park. We have the ability as a council to override that policy. The document that is in our packet, if we approved, would be an override basically to that policy. Does not need to be an insurance waiver because the attorney took a look and said that the document itself has an indemnification in it. I did find it interesting that the policy that we wrote back in 21 very specifically does delineate residents and non-residents and the fees that they pay. This person's clearly a non-resident. It also says that the fees are to be paid before you review the policy. That, I understand from staff, has not been done. And that there was a very strict deadline as to when those are supposed to be in. I think staff understands that now. And going forward, I think we should only see these when there's a variance that comes. And in this case, the alcohol policy.
Correct. And this is the first one I think we've done since then, so I don't think we can hold staff responsible for this little blip. I think we were able to accommodate.
It was a learning moment to know here's what it.
But you are right. The only modification I would make sure that is happening, he refers to the applicant as a resident and the applicant is a non-resident. So there will be a small fee associated with the reservation of the park. And as long as the applicant is okay with that, I see no reason why not to make a motion to approve this application and agreement.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilmember Fay to approve the application and agreement for the park use. Looking for a second.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councilmember Burak. Any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
While I am fully supportive of residents and non-residents using our facilities, in fact, I'm encouraged that people want to come to our parks to do that. I continue to believe that our overall policy of not allowing alcohol on the grounds is a sound one, and I will be voting against this resolution, not because I don't want him to be using our park. I just don't think on a Sunday afternoon where there will be other children around there, we ought to have alcohol being served in our park.
Thank you, Councilmember DeLuca, for explaining your vote. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Our next item of business this evening is our city administrator search final selection, and Mr. Melvin from DDA is here. You're welcome to sit with us if you like, or if you prefer to stand, however you'd like to facilitate this. So I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. I'm very comfortable standing, and good evening, Mayor and council members. I apologize in advance for all the work that I had assigned to you about a week ago. I will admit there are times where I wonder, are we providing too much information? There's, the items that you had to review on 10 candidates, you were able to review their cover letter, their resume, their video interview, their personality assessment, as well as an information disclosure statement that they may have written. So just to take kind of a step back to how we got here, posting was done from May 9th through June 6th. The city of Maple Plain had a total of 21 applicants for the city administrator position. I think that is a very respectable number of applicants, especially in today's current labor market. And I did advance 11 of those individuals. There were a lot of qualified individuals who had applied, but I did advance 11 of those to you for consideration. One of those individuals was currently going through purchasing a new home and just had a lot of issues going on and did not feel that this was the right time to also be considering a job change. And so you did have 10 candidates that you took a look at, and tonight we'll be kind of going through and you'll be having discussion, and we'll be trying to narrow that down to what you believe is a good number to invite in for an interview. So the number that we come up with tonight, I will be contacting those individuals and letting them know that they are invited to come in for an interview. We previously discussed doing that, I believe, on the July 17th and 18th, maybe doing it over the course of 2 evenings to accommodate some work schedules, with a decision being made on the 19th. So we will have some, after we go through and narrow the number of candidates down, we'll have further discussion on kind of the format for that day. But the first work at hand is simply to have some discussion about the 10 candidates and come to some conclusions as to who you think would be the most appropriate individuals and how many individuals you'd like to have come in for an interview. So what I typically do is I simply go around the table and ask you to give me your top 3 to 5 candidates. And obviously, if there's a lot of agreement on that, those individuals are in. And then if there's some individuals that don't have a lot of support, maybe there's some more discussion, and hopefully the council's able to come to an agreement on who they would like to have in. So if you're comfortable with that, I would just start out by just going around the table, and if you would, please just relay to me your top 3 to 5 candidates. I'll keep record of that, and we'll see where the commonality is among council members.
Are you capable of doing that in real time, so we can, by the time we're done, you kind of got a point value and a system?
Yes. So I've got a little sheet here,
Okay.
and I'll be keeping track of the numbers that you give me, and then I'll take a few minutes and I'll just tally up, where everybody stood in terms of votes. So,
All right,
would you like to start first?
sure. In no
And-
particular order except numeric.
And one more thing I should say, if we could, because the candidate's name is currently confidential information, we will refer to them by numbers.
Yep.
So if everybody has a copy of the memo, we will refer to individuals by numbers. So, sorry to interrupt you, but.
Nope, that's fine. 1, 3, 6, and 8.
Thank you.
10, 4, 9, 6, and 8.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I was a little bit difficult, so I'll let you, so I did what you wanted, I followed the directions, and then my numbers were like literally within points. So then I
Okay.
broke it down to, yes, possibly, and definitely not. So, I'm not sure, do you just want my 4 that were the definite yes?
Please.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, that'd
All
be
right.
great.
1, 3, 4, 7.
Okay.
Thank you.
6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
And we say the best for last.
3, 4, 6, 8, 9.
So based on the numbers that you gave me, and I didn't prioritize them, but I just looked at who had the most votes, we have 2 candidates with 4 overall votes, and we have 4 candidates with 3 votes. So, you know, that would give you right there, that would give you 5 candidates or 6 candidates to invite in.
I thought, I'm sorry, did I misunderstand? I thought you said 4 and 3.
4 individuals who had 3 votes and 2 individuals who
Oh.
had 4 votes.
I
Sorry.
misunderstood.
Did you say what those numbers are?
Yes. The individuals with 4 votes include candidate number 6 and candidate number 8. The ones with 3 votes include candidate number 3, candidate number 4, candidate number 9, and candidate number 10.
Candidate number 10 had 3 votes?
No.
I only have one.
I only have
Ooh.
1 vote for
2
candidate
votes.
10.
2.
2.
2
Two,
is
John
yeah.
and
number
Mike.
10.
John and Mike, sorry, one was
Okay.
first, one was last.
Okay, let me go through, give me just a minute to just double check my work then. I apologize. Probably got an extra. 10. Yeah, no, there's only, I'm sorry, only 2 for 10, I apologize.
All right, we're down to 5.
10.
No. I know.
Oops. See, yes, so that does bring us down to 5 candidates. Let me just double check the other ones here. Cat 3. Okay, yes, thank you for catching that error on candidate number 10. But yes, so the numbers would be, the candidates with 3 votes would be candidate 3, 4, and 9. And then the candidates with 4 votes are candidate 6 and candidate 8. Would individuals like to discuss it further, or?
I
Point of-
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I said a point of clarification on candidate number 3. From what I can see, that particular person has 7 years of experience and no degree. If our requirements were a bachelor's degree plus 3, so in my book, that'd be a degree plus 3, or if you were trying to come equivalent, the historic 2 for 1. So I'd have to see 11 years of experience and I only see 7. I don't believe that candidate's qualified.
But that candidate is also in class right now for public administration certification in May of 2023.
Okay, that is not a bachelor's degree. That's a certification program, which means it's not even an associate's degree.
I understand that.
My understanding was that, and I believe that the question was brought up, would the council be interested in somebody who maybe did not have the degree but had the years of experience that would maybe allow them to not have the degree?
And Mike, and I don't know if that was a discussion we had during a workshop. I don't know if that was a discussion when we had our one-on-ones with you, but I do recall telling you that I would take a business owner with a GED or a plumber as long as they checked all the boxes. And I went through extensively. I came up with administrative, financial, different boxes and identified. And I gave the council 5, not necessarily in any order, but I gave 5. Candidate number 3 was my 6th because of that reason. And since we are determining who we are to interview, I would be willing to take the results, and I feel there's a great deal of ebb and flow. Every one of these candidates, no one jumped out at me as like, this is my next administrator. No one did. And there's a tremendous amount of ebb and flow, and it comes with an asterisk, where I could easily move someone out of the top 5 and move them in to the bottom 5, and therefore they wouldn't get my vote to interview. So I'm okay with candidate number 3 interviewing. We can do a rather extensive Q&A with that candidate to determine whether they have the wherewithal, the merits to lead this city, because our next individual has to wear many hats, and we'll find out if this individual is capable of wearing those many hats. You want to extend it to 6 candidates, Mike?
I believe there are a couple other candidates far more superior than 3, including 10 and 7, which are only had one less vote. I mean, to me, a requirement is a requirement. I'll give you the equivalent, but 7 years doesn't equal a degree plus 3. To me, that takes 11 years.
Number 10 did not even make, I did not vote for, one of my 4 votes did not include number 10, and number 10 did not even make the middle of my ranking.
Same here.
Same.
So
And
I'm not comfortable moving 10.
if you look at candidate three's background, it's also a variety of background where there are multiple hats to be worn.
I would concur. Outside of
Outside of
city
gov-
municipal administration.
Right.
I will
And
I will
the-
give you that.
Time served in those is a fair amount of time. Not super big, but it is served with multiple hats being worn and multiple understanding of operations.
Well, I think it's fair to say that the consensus is 3 stays on. I mean, there's 4 of us advocating for, so at least right now, 3 stays on.
Correct.
You know, Mike, you could also make that argument that number 1 only received 2. But that was way down in my ranking. So I would argue all night long that that does not get moved into a position.
The other one I'd like us to at least talk about is 7.
Look at my
That
notes in a bit.
particular person has administrator experience, yet it would be a move up for her. And I know a couple people did say that was on their list. I don't know where the rest of you had her.
Not on my list.
7 was in my top.
Was or was not?
Was in one of the 4 numbers I gave.
There were 2 individuals that voted for 7 in their top.
So that'd be Councilmember DeLuca and I.
And I had noted that as a possible look, but to be very cautious.
It's-
Did you reach out to this individual? Did DDA reach out to this individual?
No. Candidate number 7?
Correct.
No.
Did
Well,
DDA bring this individual into an interview in 2021 in a different city? In the middle of a tenure with another city?
In 21?
October of 21?
I don't know.
Not you personally, but another associate within your office?
It certainly could have. I do not know the answer to that.
Okay.
And
All right.
the fact that candidates may have applied for other jobs, if they weren't considered a finalist, that's not necessarily public information if they,
She was a finalist.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Burek was trying to speak.
I was just gonna reiterate on John's aspect, the questions were raised when I was going through that. I didn't dig extensively into that background because I didn't feel that it fell high enough on the list for me to
We're talking
pursue.
about number 7 still?
Number 7, yes.
My concern is job hopping. Two years is the longest in a position. And we need someone that will stay here a little bit longer, because it's a lot to learn. And if we invest all of that in 2 years and the person's gone, we're going through this process again. You know, That's my concern. That's why number 7 didn't even appear on my list.
Mayor, I can live with 3, 4, 6, 8, and 9.
Okay. So, Councilmember DeLuca, with the 5 that we came forward with to begin with, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 9, is there consensus from the rest of council?
Consensus with me.
Consensus
Yes.
with Fay, Francis,
Consensus.
Xerox. All right, we have consensus on the 5, Mr. Melvin.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I will be contacting all of the 10 that you reviewed this evening and letting them know the outcome. Those 5 that are being interviewed, their next steps will be to complete a mental aptitude assessment. They will also be providing me with a list of references. I will follow up and contact several of those references and provide that information. We'll also be doing a background check, which will include verification on their education, and then also looking at any possible criminal record that they may have. So that, in addition to now working with you as the council to start to prepare questions for the candidates. The one thing that we do is that we prepare those questions in advance and ask everybody the same set of questions. Obviously, you are allowed to ask clarifying questions, but we do try and stick very closely to kind of a script so that everybody is asked and has the opportunity to respond to the same questions. So I am trying to recall, was there interest in having a staff
Yes.
interview panel as well as a resident panel? Was there interest
Did
in
we
having?
talk about a resident panel?
Yeah, we did, because remember, we changed the word to community.
Oh,
Community,
yes,
yes, okay.
yes.
Yep.
To include business owners.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And we did agree to that.
Okay.
We did agree that both, we did not talk about the format and what that would look like. That's my recollection.
Okay. Do you have a staff in mind as to who that would involve? Would that include everybody in the administration department or certain individuals?
My gut says the same group that you interviewed
Okay.
in the beginning, unless someone feels strongly otherwise.
And I apologize, who would that be?
So all of the office staff.
All of the office staff?
Yep,
Okay.
and then Cultus, Grails, McCoy,
Okay,
and People Service.
Okay.
okay. So,
Yep.
so contract staff, fire chief,
We did not do legal,
No.
and is that the only one we didn't do was legal?
Okay, so it would be the office staff plus those additional 4
Yep, the same ones we did before.
individuals. Okay,
And if you need their contact info again, you can let me know.
okay. And then for community, would you like each council member to indicate a person? How would you like me to go about getting a
Um,
community panel together?
Do we want to do community in person, like all at once? Kind of like how we do, and then have them each ask a question, do round robin? What have you seen done in the past that's been successful?
Some do individual interviews, some do kind of a meet and greet,
I guess.
where you get together, maybe have cookies and lemonade, and then individuals have an opportunity to talk with the candidates, and then they provide feedback. Ultimately, with regards to staff and the community panel, they're not making the decision, but what they're doing is providing you insights to help you make the decision on who to hire.
I recall when I was a community member, I was invited as a volunteer and an active resident to one of those gatherings, and I thought it was very insightful. We actually met at one of the local restaurants, and I believe it was like appetizers, and just socialized and had time to interact, and then
With
gave
all the
feedback.
candidates at the same time?
Yep, and then gave feedback, which, I mean, I acknowledge that's probably a little awkward for the candidates, but
Very awkward.
it's already public, so yeah.
sure you wanna do that?
I don't know, I'm just, I thought there was value in it. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it again.
Well, but how do you extrapolate thoughts, feelings, information from the public from just a meet and greet?
Well, like we rotate, the candidates rotated around in groups. There was, I think, like 4 small groups
And
in the room.
who's with residents to make sure that
I think, wasn't council
proper
there too?
questions are being
Yeah.
asked, you know, I mean,
It was, I mean, they were pre-planned, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
My concern would be the level of our engagement with the general population is so low, has been the last few years. I don't know what kind of a message that could send to a candidate if, you know, they go to an open house and there's Judy and Jane there. I know that that's important. I think that has value. I think it could backfire on us though, too.
I'm in by no means saying open the door and invite the whole community. I'm saying by invitation only.
Oh,
Yeah. That way there's
Oh.
control over that. So you're getting
Right.
the chamber members, the business owners, the people that come to the meetings, people that are volunteering to plant the trees, people that are showing up with cookies and council, so they have some engagement. Because otherwise, to your point, there's not a lot of value because they're not knowing how the inner workings of the city are.
I could see
Right.
where you could pull 3 people that regularly attend Cookies with Council, 3
Business
chamber
owners.
members who are part of the business community, 6 people, perfect.
Regular attendees at meetings.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm by no means
Okay.
want to do a cast the
Okay.
net and
Okay,
open
that's
the
what
doors.
I was
Sorry, I was
hoping,
not.
and I
No, no,
could
no,
just
no,
see
no,
that
no.
blowing up.
No, I was that I should have I was invited because I was active in the chamber and Heart Safe and,
I get behind that.
yeah.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
I think that,
Yes, no, certainly. And yeah, without question, the more we can control who those individuals are.
Exactly,
Yes. And so I can certainly just work with the mayor to get the names of those candidates, or if the rest of the council has thoughts on who
Yeah, we can.
those should be, certainly talk now. And
I'm okay with the mayor
I'm,
picking that list.
Are you okay if we do like the quick, the groups we just talked about?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
I won't go out to left field on y'all. I'll stay
Okay.
with the groups we mentioned.
Well, and
And
you're
I'll give
a
him
member
more
of
than we-
chamber, so you know exactly who you might feel
Right.
would work
Right.
well.
Yeah, and I don't think it would be a
As are
bad
you.
idea if you guys are okay if I try to get someone from EDA and someone from planning.
Yes, that would be good too.
Sure.
For another perspective,
Yep.
or one or the other, but,
Well, remember, there's only.
I know, there's only two, that's why I said, or
only
one or the
two
other.
On EDA, there's only 2 non-council
Right.
members on E EDA.
But I just told you I'd stick to the groups mentioned, and then that just popped in, so I just wanted to say it out loud.
No, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
so that
Yeah,
would
with
be, just to clarify, that would be a single meeting with all the candidates versus interviews. So we're gonna have the council interviews, which are going to be a longer interview time. Probably staff, we're looking at maybe 25 minutes. If you wanted to, I mean, we could have 3 meetings occurring at the same time.
And rotate them.
Yeah, and rotate them through, which will give the community panel 25 minutes to just ask questions. And they would have a different set of questions, and depending upon what you as a council are comfortable with, either you come up with the questions, or if you're receptive to allowing them to come up with questions, but then running them by you, obviously, before anything is finalized. The same can be said with staff. If you want to open the door to staff coming up with some of their questions, what I will do is I will provide questions that we've used in the past and specific maybe to Maple Plain, and then allow them to review and tweak or modify those. And then obviously before anything is finalized, it would go before the council. The council would have a chance to take a look at it. If there was a question that you weren't comfortable with, it could certainly be removed or modified. But you would ultimately have the final say in all the questions that are being asked.
I mean, my brain jumps, Pat, to the logistics of trying to schedule this, which is gonna be challenging. Yeah, you can probably back staff up and alternate and rotate between the three, but our staff works days, we're doing our meeting at night. So you're gonna ask that candidate probably to be coming to a staff meeting, a council interview, and a public meeting, and those are not gonna coincide.
No.
I think though we could make them on the same day or within a half, so they only have to take half a day off of work.
Ideally, it would be in the evening. I don't know if staff can modify work schedule for those 2 days, or.
We can do it later in the day, we can come
Do
in
it in the
earlier.
afternoon.
We can start maybe
Have them
at
start
3.
with staff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, and what I'll do is, as soon as I get out of here, I'll start putting together kind of a tentative
Okay.
schedule. And I'll try and streamline it as much as I can. Like you said, if staff are here, having those meetings at 3 o'clock, and then, the candidates can certainly hang around.
One of the things we did last time, and I know it was different as well, because all our interviews were via screen because of COVID, is the candidates had an opportunity to go on a driving tour of Maple Plain, and I was able to do that with them. If council's open to that, I'm willing to do that again if that helps with scheduling and to fill a little bit of some of the time, and if the candidates are interested.
Before or after interviews?
We would have to figure out a time that worked for everyone, and being that we're having interviews on 2 different nights, it's going to be a little more, if you're willing to do it twice.
Oh, yeah.
I would prefer that if you're gonna do it, it happens after the interviews. I prefer that you not have any me time with the candidate before the actual interview.
My only question I have, are we gonna be able to look at these questions and review them by the 10th,
Before the 17th.
the workshop,
Oh, by the 10th at our workshop?
at our workshop? Because then we're already here, we can make sure we're all on board with these questions so that they're ready to go.
That's a good
Well, not
point.
only that, but would we have some input into questions as well?
Oh, certainly, you're gonna have input into the council questions.
Right.
If you're willing to allow staff and those community members to provide input, you will ultimately see those before they get approved.
And
And
the
the council you'll have certainly much earlier notice about the council questions.
But the only interviews that are really being done are by us. The
Well-
other ones are just, they're
Recommendations.
providing feedback. I don't think we want to
Right.
legislate to those groups what they say, how they talk. Allow them to provide whatever feedback in whatever way they want to us. It's not an official interview. We have to be more careful
Correct.
with questions, but not them.
Well, but we don't want them asking.
inappropriate
Inappropriate
questions.
questions.
Of course.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
If, and that's where I guess what you're saying, Councilmember DeLuca, as long as they provide it to me and I see in advance what those questions are and they stick to it, I will steer them away from, any questions that are illegal or will cause us
Well-
headache down the road.
What if we turned it, instead of a Q&A, or not a Q&A, but what if you were there to facilitate, the questions to the candidate in front of the residents, Chamber of Commerce, staff, et cetera, whereas you facilitated it by saying, one should tell us about X, and, what would you do if Y happened? Something along that line, so that the candidate had an opportunity to talk kind of candidly, similar to less formal, but similar to the interview, the video interviews, but then I think people would get a far better idea of the individuals, and I don't know, is that possible? I mean, that way you as the recruiting professional kind of control the room, and then we get feedback instead of them asking individual questions. Oh, what about, and I just don't want to send this spiraling in a wrong direction.
Yeah, no, I could certainly do that. And,
Is
you know,
that,
some
is
of
that,
our-
I don't want to direct them that, is that even remotely a safe way to do it?
I like that idea.
It's an option.
It's an option.
It's an option. I'm not saying 100% I'm agreeing with it, but definitely not disagreeing with it. I just kind of, my looking at it, then it kind of turns into 2 interviews. That's kind of all of a sudden what Mike touched on, it brings up that question. But I do, if anything's gonna be asked, it would be nice to know kind of ahead of time, but yeah, you're right, we can't control what people ask
Well,
unless we do that way.
and Mike, I err to you, you're the seasoned HR professional. I mean, this was your career for 30 years, 30 plus years. What do you feel, do we get the biggest bang for our buck here and keep things centric and specific and?
Well, and if this could be scheduled in a way that the first candidate starts with staff, problem's gonna be, Pat can't be in 2 places at the same time. So
And neither.
I would probably have more confidence in staff being able to do that with questions that you provide, and you facilitate the community one through just a structured discussion. So they move from staff to community to the council. Then the logistics of that, I think, could flow very easily. And as savvy as some of our staff are, you could provide them a framework of questions to use, and they'll follow it. And then some kind of a feedback form that they're gonna get back to you, because you're gonna consolidate that on that Monday night and Tuesday night, as I recall.
Yes, yep. What I'll do is I'll work with staff and we'll collect the feedback forms. We'll scan them and send them back to Liz at our office. She'll summarize them. So come, if the decision's gonna be made on the 19th, right at the beginning of that meeting, you're going to have the feedback forms, which contains both the staff feedback as well as the community feedback.
Yeah, I thought we had talked last time, Pat, about the Monday interviews, you would provide us that feedback on Tuesday. The Tuesday interviews, you'd provide us on Wednesday, so that we can use Wednesday during the day as our reflective time and analyzing time, so we come back prepared.
Thank you for bringing that up. You're correct, and I apologize. Yes, we will have the feedback from Monday night to you on Tuesday, and from Tuesday night, we'll have that to use, if we can, later Tuesday night, first thing Wednesday morning.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Because the discussion between us will happen on Thursday, is that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. You had mentioned that you'd be creating a series of questions, and obviously we have an opportunity to ask follow-up questions. And I want you to put some thought to this. Because the skill sets of these individuals are so varied and broad, I'm gonna find it hard asking candidate 3 the same questions as candidate 8, because they're life experiences, their work responsibilities, everything are completely different. What degree of ability do we have to submit to you ahead of time candidate-specific questions that get into the narrative?
You know, if there's a question about something that's on the resume or something like that, if there's a question about a comment that they make, where you're asking for clarification, if they say, you know, oh yes, I've worked with economic development, you know, for several years. You know, if it's a question coming back, getting into the meat and potatoes, what exactly did you do in economic development? Those type of questions are good, but in terms of looking at each candidate and having different questions, I mean, their responses are gonna be different based on their experiences, but the questions, we're not able to deviate a whole lot between candidates.
Okay, and these questions that we're talking about that you think are appropriate,
Yep.
are these cookie cutter questions that DDA has formulated and used in numerous?
Some of them are.
Please don't tell me, it's like, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
Or that's, you know.
Some of them are. Some of our questions are, okay, what makes you, why are you the best person for this job?
That's good, yeah.
You know, but
What
then.
separates you from
Yeah.
X, Y, Z?
There may be some other questions that will be situational questions, where we'll lay out a situation and then we'll say, you know, how would you address this situation? Where we get more at their logical thinking, you know, how would we, you know, you've got a development that's going in and yet for whatever reason, the police department has concerns about another development that they have, and how do you address the public who doesn't want the development, but yet the development is in the best interest of the city and tax revenue and different things. But, you know, we'll come up with those questions, and certainly at that time, the council will have the opportunity to review those, and we can continue to work together to formulate those how you would like. So. Yeah.
Other questions for Mr. Melvin? Okay.
Maybe a couple of questions. I have, one is, you know, I don't know that I will get this question, but I usually do get one individual who asks, are remote interviews an option? I would encourage you not to allow remote interviews, because you're making a decision on who's going to be your future leader, and not having face-to-face contact with that individual.
Well,
I'm
and
not
given the
open to that.
location that these people live, I don't think that will be an issue.
Okay. We just had the same discussion at the league nominating committee.
Okay. And in terms of showcasing, then, the mayor is going to provide a bus tour, which is going to occur after the interviews. Is that, Councilmember Fay, I know you would like to see it after? What?
I would prefer that be after, and let me explain what I mean by me time. I would prefer, since we are all going into this, given the same information, it's black and white, it's written, we're asking the same series of questions. I think it would be unfair if one of the 5 council members, in this case the mayor, had an opportunity to spend additional private time with the candidate, getting to know them ahead of the interviews. That's as polite as I can put it. I'm not afraid of, or I'm not against some type of tour. I just think that it should not be pre-interviews. That's my only thinking. I wouldn't do it pre-interview. I'd make sure it was post-interview.
And one option, just because we've done this in other communities, is that the full council can even participate in that tour. You know, just from past experience, I mean, one of the positive things about, you know, having the tour prior to the interviews is that, you know, individuals get an opportunity to ask questions. You see their level of engagement, because as they're coming to interviews with the staff, with the community, and with you as the council, one of the things that we really stress is we want to leave some time at the end for them to ask questions of you. You know, sometimes you really pick up that, wow, that individual was listening during the bus tour, or they really have some great questions based on what they heard during the bus tour.
And then let staff do the tour and not a council member. That takes it away from the people that are actually making the final decision. So pick one.
I think there is value, though, that we interact with this candidate in some form of not in a formal manner. And that is one perk that driving around offered. Because as much as time as we spend together in formal meetings, especially as the mayor, setting the agenda in our workshops, there's informal time too, when people behave and respond and interact differently when you are having a conversation over dinner, or when you and I would be sitting at a meeting and an interview with formal questions. And I think it's important that we see both sides of this person's personality, because we will be spending a lot of time together in both modes.
I think the point here, Mayor, is we are not going to be seeing that other side. It's only going to be one of us.
Well, then let's make it we. I'm not saying it just has to be me.
I
That's
don't
what it
know
was
the
last time.
logistics of
That's
how
why I
you're going to
suggested
now
it.
add another element to this.
Well,
And if we were a huge city, I would say, yeah, that has some value. What are you showing them? A couple of parks, a public works building, a fire department, and
Downtown development.
downtown lot. You could almost do a walking tour. I don't see the value.
Well, then I would like to do something as a group that we do something informal with the candidate.
I know I'm fairly new at this, but my question then becomes, how does this portray to open meeting laws if we're all together? Is it a quorum?
Of course.
So everything has to be posted and open.
Yeah.
I'm not against the tour. I'm just saying, figure out a way to make it post-interview.
I hear what you're saying,
Okay.
but I also hear what Councilmember DeLuca is saying. You know, does everyone want that opportunity?
I
I can't speak for anyone else.
I want to be able to go into this as independent, clear thinking without having some predisposed notion of anything. I've got a pretty good idea what to expect. I'll have a series of questions in front of me. We'll conduct an interview. That's the first time, because now it's an interview. I'm not trying to make it easy for them. I'm sorry. I mean, this is a difficult decision.
So, I think I may have missed the boat on something. So we're going to interview these 5 people over 2 evenings, making a decision on the 3rd evening, and that's the person we're making the offer to?
Correct.
What if after the first 2 nights we go, we can't come to an agreement as to who we like, then what?
Then you've got several options. What I would recommend is, if you do not find a candidate that you think is a good fit for Maple Plain, I would recommend that we hold off for another 6 months and then recruit again.
Okay, or what if we come down to 2 candidates? Granted, we're an odd number, but say, we're talking
Well,
some
Hopefully we'll-
like this one, some like that one, and we can't come to a consensus.
having been through 3 of these already, we'll come to a consensus.
And
we
it's
keep
best
working
that
at
it's
it until we
5-0
come
and
to a
not 4-1
consensus.
or 3-2.
Okay.
We will come to a consensus, and we won't stop until we get to a consensus.
Exactly.
And what I will ask you to do is, I'll ask you to you know, approve kind of your top 2 candidates. And then I will work with a couple members of the council and start negotiating. If for whatever reason we're unable to reach negotiation, then I will just move to the second candidate. I won't have to get you as the council together to approve me now starting negotiation with the second
Okay.
candidate. But ultimately, it's just gonna be me working with a couple council members to try and
So we're
get
picking
that
number 1
agreement.
and number 2.
Yes, that's what I'll be looking for.
Okay.
So,
Do you ever have the candidates, as part of one of their questions, present a certain topic or present them with a question as if it were a council meeting or part of a packet?
we have, I think with a city, we did have them, we actually gave them some homework of preparing a, council action request, on a topic.
That's clever.
That
I would like to see something like that, so we can see work style and communication style with, I mean,
Okay.
giving them all the same direction or question, whatever that looks like, if others are in agreement.
Mhm. Yeah, in this situation, the interim city administrator at that time went through and reviewed it, each applicant's, well, it was the finalist, each finalist completed that, and then that information was provided to the interim city administrator, who reviewed it and then reported to the council on how each of the candidates did.
I'd like to see kind of the role play. I'd
Yeah.
like to see that.
But, yeah, it certainly is something that we could incorporate in, and that could be something that they could do as homework in advance, and then present it at their interview.
I mean, it
Or-
can even be made up. I just want to
Yeah.
see communication style and whether they're
Yeah.
using, what resources they use, how they talk to
Right, that
us.
becomes a interview question.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but it's
Right.
a.
That's
but
what I'm
it's a-
asking.
But it's
It's a deliverable.
It's,
Yes, that they know ahead of
Right.
time, but
And
it's.
we did that a couple times ago with, I think the assignment, as I recall, was you had to, the deliverable was a press release.
I was gonna say, a fictitious press release.
Yeah.
Right, and
I
we
don't-
had given them the facts.
It's a
The
great
fact
idea.
is A, B, C, D, and here it is. Write your press release and give it to us. And we found tremendous differences in the writing
Oh,
styles.
yeah, you could come up with something very uncomfortable to write if you want.
I like-
We're not giving it to you, John.
Pat, if there are 5 candidates, that means one night there will be 3 interviews and one night there will be 2 interviews.
Correct.
How much time are you planning for each interview?
So what we typically have, and I'm gonna have to put this down on paper and kind of play with it to
Figure it
see
out.
what works, but
Yeah.
typically what we've seen is 20, like I said, about 25 minutes for both the staff and the community panel, and then about 50 minutes for the council.
50?
50, 50. But certainly, you know, once I put that schedule together, you know, I'm obviously gonna be having the staff start early. The community panel will probably start later, and the council will probably be the last group to get going, but
And as council, we did commit to start at 4:30 on Monday and Tuesday, so hopefully that will help, if that still works for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I start putting that schedule together, there may be some tweaks and changes, but I will keep the mayor, and if the mayor wants to keep the council informed of.
Yep.
Is that just for that Monday and Tuesday? for
Yeah, and
the
Wednesdays
city?
at
7
7.
is the 19th, right?
That way you can go to your church stuff first.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
So. But, yeah, that council action request, a press release, that sounds.
Press, I mean, whatever you decide,
I can certainly put something together and run it by the mayor if you'd like, or if the full council would like to see what.
Well, I like the idea of the press release,
Yes.
but if it is an agenda item, for example, in a council packet, so we say, the writing style for narrative and research, et cetera. I think we would, just like you said, give them a fictitious event and write a press release. We should probably give them a fictitious or a real world situation for a agenda item like a conditional use permit, for example, of XYZ. And then that way we can compare candidate A through candidate F to, you know, otherwise it's writing style, but if they're doing something that they're familiar with and replicating or copying something that they did at their current job, that's a shortcut. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'd want everyone to be on the same page.
Same situation, yeah.
Same, whether it be the press, I don't care which one it is. I do like the press release, but I think it's probably more for us, because we'll be looking at agenda items and narratives and research and whatever, so.
And if you would like to, if you have any specific situations in mind, otherwise I can certainly, you know, work with the mayor and talk with staff and see if there are some hot topics that have recently happened, and if there is something that they would recommend for a situational analysis.
Councilmember DeLuca might be good at that.
We can come up with something.
Okay, work with Councilmember DeLuca on that? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. Any questions that you have? Okay.
So you'll be in conversation with regards to logistics with me. We'll confirm things and then we'll get them out to council and staff and community as soon as possible.
Yes, yep,
Okay.
I'll start putting together schedules and we'll try and get everything set up. I will reach out to, you know, the community panel. If I can get email addresses, I'll let them know that they're being asked to participate. Ask them to reserve the dates.
All right, with that, I am looking for a motion to invite candidates number 3, 4, 6, 8, and 9 to in-person interviews for the city administrator position on July 17th and 18th. And those were listed in no particular order.
So moved.
Moved by DeLuca.
Second.
Second by Burek. Thank you. Any other business or council reports to come before us
Do you
this
want to
evening?
vote on
Do we
that?
want to vote on
Oh, yeah, we should vote on that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
it?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Doing too many things tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all your
Thank
hard
you.
work to
Yes.
date.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
A lot of work.
Just to let you know, we will put together a brief bio on each of the 5 finalists and provide that to Shirley. And if you wish to have her provide that to the newspaper or share it with anybody, that's certainly your
Thank
choice.
you.
So, thanks for your time and look forward to a fun interview day. We'll start getting the schedule going, so.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
much appreciated.
Are there any council reports this evening?
I forgot to acknowledge my daughter's 23rd birthday on Monday night's meeting, so I'd like to acknowledge Abigail's 23rd birthday. Happy
All right.
birthday.
Thank you. Any other council reports or other business?
No?
Hearing none, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Burek, second by Councilmember Fay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Meeting's adjourned at 6:37.